Chapter 9, Lesson 4. Consequences of the War. What to know. How did the American Revolution affect life in the new United States? Explain how state constitutions reflected the ideals of the American Revolution. Evaluate how the Declaration of Independence changed views on slavery. Understand the significance of new land policies and their impact on American Indians. Vocabulary, which you'll study in Quizlet. Abolitionist, abolitionist. Abolish, abolish. Territory, territory. Ordinance, ordinance. Consequences of the war. You are there. Slavery is wrong, a man declares, pounding his fist on the table in front of you. Just read the Declaration of Independence. It says everybody should have liberty. Other members of the group nod their heads in agreement. It's not right that we should win our freedom, but deny freedom to slaves, your mother says. We should stop slavery altogether, another person says, but I'm afraid that's going to be hard. Now here we have some primary sources. This medal and sermon illustrate the anti-slavery movement. Am I Not a Man and a Brother? And here a sermon from Jonathan Edwards about the injustice of the slave trade. African American ministers were leaders for abolition in the United States. New ideas for a new nation. With freedom from Britain came the opportunity to develop new laws. By 1776, the states had begun to write their own constitutions. Several states used Virginia's state constitution as a model. It began with a list of the basic freedoms of Virginia's citizens, including the right to trial by jury, the freedom to hold elections, and the freedom of the press. These were many of the beliefs that people fought for in the American Revolution. The Declaration of Independence had affected the way many Americans thought about people's rights. The Declaration said that each person had the right to life and liberty. State constitutions, however, did not give this freedom to all people, and most African Americans remained enslaved. If the Declaration's words were true, many people said, slavery should be stopped. Some groups, including Quakers, spoke out against slavery. In 1775, Quakers formed the country's first abolitionist or anti-slavery group in Philadelphia. In Massachusetts, a slave named Elizabeth Freeman used to be free. In Massachusetts, a slave named Elizabeth Freeman sued to be free. When asked why she was suing, she answered, "I heard that paper, the Declaration, read yesterday that all people are born equal." Now she sued, so the jury in the court, the jury agreed, and Elizabeth Freeman won her freedom. Eventually, Massachusetts chose to abolish or end slavery in 1783. So how did the Declaration of Independence change the way many people viewed slavery? Western settlements. When the Revolutionary War ended, Congress owed huge sums of money to its soldiers. Money was in short supply, though, so Congress developed new land policies. As other nations had done in the past, the United States government used land as a kind of payment for military service. Soldiers received land based on their rank and how long they had served. Some soldiers received thousands of acres of land. Some soldiers received hundreds of acres of land. As a result of this land policy, many former soldiers came to own land in western regions. Not all of the people who moved west, however, were soldiers. Eager to raise money to pay off its debts, the money it owed, its debts, Congress sold huge areas of land to settlers, companies, towns, and newly formed states. As settlers moved west, tensions grew. British troops still occupied forts along the frontier. Spain also claimed land along the western border. To strengthen its claim on western lands, Congress often just gave land away so people would be encouraged to settle in the West. Aside from the promise of free land, Americans moved to Western settlements for other reasons. Some moved to farmland and to start families. Some people were simply eager for adventure. Others hoped to start large farms and become rich. One Georgia man wrote, "I have been trying to get over my desire for Western plantation, but every time I see a man who has been there, it puts me in a fever." What new land policies were developed for former soldiers? And here in this painting, settlers moved west of the Appalachians to build new lives. And on the map, the Northwest Territory as of 1785. So you see what will become Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Upper Peninsula of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Ohio River. See it? The Northwest Ordinance. The Northwest Ordinance. Over time, thousands of Americans followed the Ohio River west and settled north of the river in an area that became known as the Northwest Territory. A territory is land that belongs to a nation, but is not a state and is not represented in the national government. At first, there was no plan for how the land should be divided. It was hard to tell where each person's property ended. As a result, many boundary disputes occurred. Dispute fights, conflicting claims. Finally, in 1787, Congress passed the Northwest Ordinance. This ordinance, or set of laws, set up a plan for governing the Northwest Territory and for forming new states from the lands. It said that the Ohio River would form the area's southern boundary. When any region of the Northwest Territory had a population of 60,000 people, it could become a new state. The new states would be like other states in some ways, but also different. The Northwest Ordinance said, quote, "There shall be neither slavery nor involuntary servitude in the said territory." Slavery would not be allowed in states formed from the Northwest Territory. So how did the Northwest Ordinance affect slavery? Battles for land. After the Revolutionary War, the British left most of their forts in the United States. Without British support, it became harder for American Indians to stop settlers from moving to Indian lands. In many areas, tribes fought settlers to keep their lands. As these tensions grew, Michiquaniqua became a leader for the American Indians of the Northwest Territory. From the Miami tribe of what is now Ohio, Michiquaniqua commanded a group of fighters made up of people from many tribes. In 1794, United States soldiers marched into the Northwest Territory to defeat Michiquaniqua. Because he and his warriors took cover among fallen trees, the fight was called the Battle of Fallen Timbers. Michiquaniqua's group lost the battle, and the soldiers burned many nearby Indian villages. In 1795, the tribes agreed to accept the Treaty of Grenville. In this treaty, they gave up most of their land in the Northwest Territory. Many tribes were angered by the American demands for land. After the treaty was signed, they distrusted the United States government. Some American Indians sold their land to the government or to land companies. The Holland Land Company, for example, wanted to buy much of the land west of the Genesee River from the Seneca Indians in New York. A leader named Red Jacket warned his tribe not to sell its land. However, the leaders ignored Red Jacket's advice and signed the Big Tree Treaty, which let the company buy almost all of the Seneca's land. In the years to come, settlers from the United States moved farther into the western lands. Time and time again, the United States refused to honor its treaties with Indian groups. The lives of the American Indians would never be the same as they had been before the Revolutionary War. So what was the effect of the Treaty of Grenville? And what was the Northwest Territory? In summary, after the Revolutionary War, the states wrote constitutions and views on slavery changed. Western settlement led to land policies and fights with American Indians, Native Americans.